When I was fighting cancer, my husband was cheating on me. One anonymous message with a photo of him kissing another woman shattered my world. Everything he'd ever told me was a lie. Now he's begging for forgiveness. But the real truth turned out to be so much worse than what was happening. My name's Emily Reed, and I'm 34. I live in a suburb of Portland, Oregon, in a house with blue shutters that my husband David and I bought 5 years ago, back when I still believed in fairy tale love stories. I'm a marketer at a tech company, or I was, until cancer crushed my carefully planned life. Before I got sick, I was obsessed with order. My days were mapped out in Excel spreadsheets, from my morning coffee to weekend to-do lists. I loved planning family dinners, dreaming about kids, about traveling, about sitting on the porch with David, laughing at his goofy jokes, surrounded by grandkids. David, my husband, is 2 years older than me. He's an engineer at a construction firm, loves hiking, craft beer, and his silly jokes that made me roll my eyes but secretly warmed my heart. We met in college at a party where he, all awkward and charming, spilled coffee on me. He apologized all night until I agreed to go on a date with him. His kindness, his warm gaze, his ability to make me laugh even on my worst days. It was like an anchor in my life. We got married 4 years later, and I thought I'd found my person. The one I'd go through hell and back with. A year ago, everything fell apart. The diagnosis, stage 3 breast cancer, hit me like a punch to the chest. I sat in the doctor's office, gripping David's hand as the world blurred around me. He hugged me, his voice shaking as he whispered, "We'll get through this, Emily. I'm with you." I clung to those words as chemo burned through my body, as my hair fell onto my pillow, as I lost myself. David was there, bringing me soup, holding my hand, promising we'd beat it. I believed him. I held on to him like he was my last thread of hope. God, I was so blind. While I was fighting for my life, he was destroying everything I thought we had. His care, his tears, it was all a lie. And the truth tore me apart. That day is seared into my memory. I was lying in a hospital bed, exhausted after another round of chemo. Nausea rolled over me in waves, my throat tight, but I forced myself to breathe, picturing going back to my normal life. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I thought it was David. He'd promised to stop by with my favorite latte, but it was an unknown number. The message read, "Emily, you deserve to know the truth." Attached was a photo. I opened it and my world stopped. David was sitting in a restaurant I didn't recognize, across from a blonde in a red dress. Their hands were intertwined, his fingers gently brushing her wrist. He was looking at her with that smile, warm, intimate, the one that used to be mine. I zoomed in, my fingers trembling. It was him. His dark hair, his favorite checkered shirt, his eyes full of love. My heart pounded so loud I was scared the nurses would hear. I felt the blood drain from my face. My breathing turned ragged. My throat closed like someone was choking me. This couldn't be real. Not my David. Not now when I was barely hanging on. I tried to rationalize it. A coworker, a friend, a random encounter. But deep down, a cold, heavy emptiness was already growing. I texted the sender, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Kelly, his coworker." "This isn't a one-time thing, Emily. I'm sorry." I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, staring at the hospital ceiling as the IV drip counted down the minutes. My thoughts were chaos. Confront him? Stay quiet? Pretend I didn't see it? I kept replaying how he'd held my hand, how he'd promised we'd get through this together. Every memory cut like glass. I felt betrayed, humiliated, crushed. But I couldn't just wait. I needed to know everything, even if it meant breaking my heart even more. The next day, David came to the hospital like nothing was wrong. He brought my favorite vanilla latte and a bouquet of daisies that always made me smile. He kissed my forehead, asked how I was feeling, his voice full of care. But I looked at him and saw a stranger. His smile felt fake, like a mask he'd put on to fool me. His eyes avoided mine, and I felt anger rising, mixed with pain. How could he sit here, pretending everything was fine after what he'd done? When he left, I grabbed my phone. We'd never had secrets. At least I thought we didn't. We shared passwords for everything because we trusted each other. I logged into his iCloud, my fingers shaking with fear and fury. I opened his messages, and there it was. Months of texts with Kelly. "You were amazing today," he wrote on a day I was crying after chemo, feeling my body betray me. "Can't wait for our next night." On a day he said he was working late. Photos, them together at sunset, her in his shirt, them in bed, her hand on his chest. Videos, their laughter, their kisses, their plans for a future I wasn't part of. I scrolled further, each message stabbing me like a knife. They talked about me. "Emily's always sleeping, she won't notice," he wrote. "She's too focused on her illness to pay attention." Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. I copied everything. Texts, photos, videos. My hands shook so bad I could barely hold the phone. I wanted to scream, to smash something, but instead I kept reading, like I was punishing myself. That evening, another message came from the anonymous sender. "Check his email. You'll find more." I logged into his Gmail. Buried among work emails were hotel bookings in Seattle, concert tickets for a show I never went to, an order for a bracelet engraved with a K. I never wore bracelets. It was for Kelly. I closed the laptop, feeling the world collapse. My chest tightened, like the cancer was back to finish me off. But I didn't cry. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. He'd pay for this. But first, I had to survive. The next few days were a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept up with treatment, smiled at the nurses, answered the doctor's questions, but inside, a storm was raging. Every night, I replayed those messages in my head. Every word from Kelly, every look David gave her in those photos. My soul was torn between fury and despair. How could I have been so blind? Was I too wrapped up in my illness? Did I miss how he was suffering? I remembered how often he stayed late at work, how rarely we talked about anything but my treatment. I started blaming myself, feeling doubt poison me. But then I remembered his words. "We'll get through this, Emily. I'll always be here." And the anger came back, hot and relentless. He'd lied to my face. He held my hand while I was dying and built another life behind my back. I started noticing little things I'd ignored. How he'd put his phone face down. How his smile got tight when I asked about his day. How he dodged talks about the future. Every sign was a shard piercing my heart. My best friend Liz visited almost every day. She noticed I'd changed, that the light in my eyes was gone. One day, when she brought me homemade blueberry muffins, she grabbed my hand and said, "Emily, enough hiding." "What's going on?" I tried to brush it off, but the tears betrayed me. They poured out like a dam had broken. I told her everything. The photo, Kelly, the lies. Liz listened, her face growing darker. When I finished, she squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "That bastard doesn't deserve you," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "We'll deal with him." For the first time in a week, I felt like I wasn't alone. A week later, I was discharged. The cancer was in retreat. Not gone, but enough for me to go home. David picked me up from the hospital, helped me into the car, tucked a blanket around me. He made lasagna, my favorite, and acted like nothing had changed. But I looked at him and my heart ached. His care felt fake, his smile a mask. I felt betrayed, but also terrified of losing him. He'd been my anchor for so long. What if I was wrong? What if I ruined everything over one photo? That evening, while he watched TV, I sat across from him. My voice was cold as ice, but inside I was trembling. I told him I knew about Kelly. His face went pale, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. He started saying it was a mistake, that he was stressed about my illness. that he needed to escape. Every word was a blow to my heart. He said he loved me, that Kelly meant nothing, that he'd fix everything. I looked at him, and my soul screamed in pain. How could he lie so easily? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots, texts, photos, videos. His face twisted like I'd hit him. He went silent, staring at the floor, his hands shaking. Then he looked up, eyes full of tears, and tried to take my hand. I pulled away, feeling a wave of anger rising. I told him to leave. He begged to stay, saying he couldn't live without me, that he'd do anything to earn my forgiveness. His voice broke, but I felt no pity, only emptiness. That night, he packed a bag and left for his brother's. I was alone in our house, the silence pressing down on me. But in that silence, there was relief. I'd taken the first step toward freedom. The news spread like wildfire. Liz was furious and promised to have my back. She even offered to go to David's and handle it her way, but I asked her not to get involved. I wanted to handle it myself. But not everyone was on my side. A couple of days later, David's mom, Barbara, called. Her voice dripped with judgment, like I was the one who'd betrayed him. She said I should understand him, that my illness was a heavy burden, that he's human and humans make mistakes. I listened, feeling anger choke me. I asked how she'd feel if her husband cheated while she was dying. She went quiet, her breathing heavy, and hung up. My parents hurt just as much. Mom said we'd been through so much together that divorce was too drastic. Maybe try therapy? She suggested, her voice full of hope. Dad stayed quiet, but I could see he agreed. Their words were like salt in a wound. My sister Kate was the only one who supported me without hesitation. She came over for the weekend, bringing a bottle of wine and helping me pack David's things into boxes. We worked in silence, but her presence was like a warm blanket on a cold day. When we finished, she hugged me, and I sobbed. For the first time, I let myself feel all the pain. The pressure didn't stop. Colleagues, friends, even my boss. Everyone seemed to have an opinion. He made a mistake, Emily. Don't ruin your life over this. My coworker, Mike, said over coffee. His words felt like a slap. I started doubting myself. Was I being too harsh? Did he really regret it? But then I'd remember those messages, his smile in the photos with Kelly, and the doubts vanished. I couldn't forgive. My soul was too wounded. A month after our fight, I got a letter. A real one, in an envelope with my address in neat handwriting. It was from Kelly. My first instinct was to throw it away. I'd pictured her as some femme fatale who'd stolen my life. But curiosity and anger won out. I tore it open, expecting something that would make me even angrier. Instead, I found an apology. Kelly wrote that she didn't know how serious my illness was. David told her our marriage was already dead, that I'd pulled away, that we were living like roommates. She believed him. She said he promised to leave me, that they'd be together. But when I found out the truth, he dumped her, blaming her for everything. She felt used, betrayed, broken. Her words were like a mirror. I saw my own despair in them. I sat with that letter, my soul tearing apart. I hated Kelly, but now I saw she was another victim. David had manipulated us both, playing with our hearts like toys. I decided to meet her. We arranged to meet at a cafe in downtown Portland. I expected to see the woman who'd stolen my life, but instead, I saw an ordinary woman with tired eyes and a nervous smile. Her hands shook as she held her coffee. She looked as broken as I felt. We talked for over an hour. She told me how David convinced her I didn't want to see him, that I was too sick to be a wife. Every word was a lie. I showed her our texts, where I begged him to spend more time with me, to be there. Her face went pale, her eyes filling with tears. I thought he loved me, she whispered. We both realized he'd played us like puppets. Kelly apologized again and left, leaving me with a bitter truth. The man I loved was a master liar. My soul screamed in pain, but I knew this was just the beginning. I thought it couldn't get worse. But a week after meeting Kelly, I got another anonymous message. This time, a video. I opened it, expecting something like the photo. But it was worse. So much worse. My hand shook as I hit play. The video was from a party 6 months ago, when I was in the hospital hooked up to IVs. David, drunk, stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by friends. He bragged that he'd found some fun while I was stuck in the hospital. He laughed, saying Kelly was hotter than I'd ever been, that I was too busy with my illness to be a wife. His friends egged him on, slapping his shoulder, laughing like it was the best joke ever. One even said, "Take what you can get, man." I felt something break inside me. My soul shattered. This wasn't just an affair. It was a betrayal that crushed what little faith I had left in him. He'd humiliated me while I fought for my life, while I clung to every day. I watched the video over and over until tears blurred my eyes. My chest tightened. I was choking on pain and rage. I sent it to Liz and Kate. Liz texted back, "I'll kill him." Kate suggested posting it online, but I said no. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because I didn't want to sink to his level. But I sent the video to David. No words, just the file. He called within a minute, his voice shaking like a kid caught lying. He begged to meet, to explain. I agreed, but not for him. I wanted to look him in the eyes and see who he really was. My soul burned with anger, and I knew this would be the last time. Before meeting David, I called his brother, Michael. I always liked Michael. He was honest, straightforward, nothing like his brother. I told him everything. Kelly, the video, the lies. My soul trembled as I spoke, but I couldn't stop. I expected him to defend David, but instead he sighed, his voice heavy with exhaustion. He said David had always been selfish, even as a kid. He recalled how David stole money from their mom's purse to buy a gaming console and blamed Michael. "I thought he'd changed when he married you," he said. "Guess I was wrong. Michael promised to talk to their parents, to get them to stop pressuring me. It was unexpected, and I felt a warmth in my chest. Someone believed me. But his parents didn't let up. Barbara sent a long email accusing me of tearing the family apart. She said my illness broke David, that he couldn't handle the pressure. Her words were like poison, slowly seeping into me. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her the video. She didn't write again, but I knew she wouldn't give up. My parents started to come around. After I showed them the evidence, Dad apologized, his voice thick with shame. "I didn't realize how bad it was," he said. Mom still hoped I'd reconsider, but her voice was quieter. I knew their support would never be full, but I didn't care anymore. I had Kate, Liz, and my own growing resolve. Before meeting David, I got another anonymous message. This time, an audio recording. I played it, and my world crumbled again. It was David talking to a friend at that same party. He said my illness was a convenient excuse to live his life. He laughed that I was too weak to notice his cheating, that he could do whatever he wanted while I was in the hospital. But the worst came at the end. He said, "If she doesn't make it, I'll start over. Kelly's my backup plan." I stared at the phone, my soul tearing apart. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning a future without me, not even knowing if I'd survive. My pain turned into rage, cold and sharp as a blade. I saved the recording, adding it to my arsenal of evidence. I didn't know who this anonymous person was, but I was grateful. They'd given me weapons I was ready to use. I sent the recording to Liz. She called within a minute, her voice shaking with fury. "Emily, he's a monster. You have to destroy him." I knew she was right, but part of me was still scared. Not of him, but of losing the life I'd held on to. But I couldn't go back. My soul was too wounded to pretend. We met in a park near our house. David looked awful. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, like he hadn't slept in weeks. My soul ached for a second. I remembered how I loved him, how he was my home. But then I recalled his words on that recording, and my heart hardened. I stood with my arms crossed, waiting for him to speak. He started with apologies, his voice shaky like he'd rehearsed it. He said he was drunk at the party, that it wasn't real. He said he loved me, wanted to come back, was willing to do therapy. But then he shifted to blame. He said I was cold, that my illness made me unbearable, that he needed to move on. Every word was a knife in my soul. I pulled out my phone and played the video. His face went white, his eyes wide with horror. He tried to grab the phone, but I stepped back. Then I played the audio. His voice, his laugh, his words about me being too weak. He froze, his hands dropping. I told him I'd saved everything. Texts, photos, videos, the recording. If he contacted me again, I'd send it all to his family, friends, co-workers. I said he no longer had power over me. My soul burned, but I felt stronger than ever. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. I wasn't the Emily who trusted him anymore. I walked away, leaving him hunched and broken in the park. My soul hurt, but I knew I'd done the right thing. After our meeting, the news spread like wildfire. One of David's friends saw the video. Rumors started flying. Coworkers whispered. Friends turned away. One of them, Tom, texted me, apologizing for being at the party and not stopping David. I thought he was joking. He wrote, his words full of shame. I didn't reply. I didn't need their apologies. My soul was too wounded for their pity. At David's job, things shifted. Kelly quit, but rumors about his behavior reached his bosses. He was moved to a less prestigious project, and I heard he started drinking. I didn't feel satisfaction or pity. He wasn't my person anymore. My soul was starting to heal, but every time I heard his name, the pain crept back. My friends split. Some, like Mike, vanished, not wanting to pick a side. Others, like Liz and Kate, became my rock. Liz threw a freedom party where we burned old photos of David in her backyard. We laughed, drank wine, and for the first time in forever, I felt my soul come alive. Kate hugged me, her eyes shining with tears. "You're stronger than he'll ever be," she said. I believed her. I filed for divorce the day after the park meeting. My lawyer, Sarah, was stunned when I showed her the evidence. She said we had a strong case. David tried to fight the property split, claiming the house should be his. But his lawyer quickly convinced him to agree to my terms. No one wanted that video or audio going public. The divorce was hard, but not because of David. It was hard to let go of the life I'd imagined. Kids, growing old together, the porch and grandkids. I cried at night, not for him, but for the naive Emily who believed in the fairy tale. My soul was scarred, but every day I felt stronger. I started to see my life could be different. Better. The social fallout was like a storm. Some friends disappeared, not wanting to get involved. But those who stayed, Liz, Kate, a couple of coworkers, became my new family. David's mom tried to reach out, but I blocked her. My parents finally took my side, though Mom still sighed about lost potential. Kelly stayed in touch too. We didn't become friends, but we texted sometimes. She left David's company and started over in another state. I was happy for her, but my soul still ached. It's been a year since I learned the truth. My cancer's in remission, my hair's growing back, and I'm back at work. I sold our house. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a small apartment in downtown Portland with big windows and a river view. It's tiny, but it's mine. I decorated it with paintings I chose and plants I water every morning. Each morning, I wake up feeling at home. For the first time in a long time. I started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Martin, helped me see how David manipulated me even before the affair, making me feel guilty for my emotions, avoiding tough talks, chipping away at my confidence. My soul's healing, but every step is a fight. I realized I deserve more. I started a blog, at first just to vent. But it took off. Women from all over shared their stories of betrayal, illness, recovery. I learned my story isn't unique, but that doesn't make it less important. As for David, I heard he moved to another state. His reputation at work took a hit when the rumors about the video and audio spread. I don't feel glee or pity. He made his choices. Now he lives with the consequences. My soul's finally finding peace. A month ago, I got another letter, this time from David's sister, Megan. We were never close, but she always seemed honest. She apologized for her family's behavior. She said she only recently learned the full truth and was shocked. My soul tightened as I read her words. She revealed David had cheated before Kelly during our first year of marriage. She found old letters while helping him move. She wasn't sure whether to tell me, but decided I deserved to know. I sat with that letter, feeling strange relief. It wasn't my fault. It never was. David was a liar from the start. I remembered our first year, his late nights, his irritation when I asked questions. I'd chalked it up to stress, to adjusting to married life. Now I saw he was always like this. I wrote Megan back, thanked her, and asked her not to contact me again. My soul was tired of the past. I wanted to move forward. Today, I'm sitting in my favorite cafe in downtown Portland, writing this and watching people outside. My soul still carries scars, but they're not bleeding anymore. I don't know what's next. Maybe I'll fall in love again. Maybe I'll stay single and be happy. But I know one thing. I'll never let anyone make me feel less than I am. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how I found myself when everything fell apart. About how I learned to trust my heart, even when it's broken. I started yoga to reconnect with my body after its long fight. I signed up for photography classes to see the world anew. I got a puppy, a golden retriever named Sunny, who makes me laugh every day, even when my soul aches. Sometimes I think about the kids David and I never had. I pictured their laughter, their tiny hands, but now I think maybe it's for the best. Divorce with kids would have been harder. Maybe one day I'll be ready to be a mom. But for now, I'm learning to be enough for myself. My soul's learning to love again. Not a man, but me. My blog's growing. I get letters from women saying my story gave them the strength to leave toxic relationships. I started hosting online meetups for others who've been betrayed. It's become my way of turning pain into something good. I didn't just survive. I learned to live again. My soul's finally free. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever been betrayed? Share your story. Let's support each other.